Welcome, guys. You joined another show of Question with Ask Any. I'm your host, Karishka. Today, we have few callers joining from all around the world, and our guest is Beth Kanter. I'm so excited to have Beth Kanter. Hi, Beth.
So excited to be here. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening.
Yeah, just to give a brief background about our guest. She's Beth Kanter. She's a master trainer, speaker, and an author. Beth is a renowned international nonprofit thought leader with 35 years of experience in the nonprofit sector. She's named one of the most influential women in technology by Fast Company and one of the Business Week's Voice of Innovation for social media. Her first book, The Network Nonprofit, introduced the sector to a new way of thinking, operating in a connected world. She is the author of Beth's blog, where she writes about networking, data, learning, training, facilitation techniques. Her blog is one of the longest running and most popular nonprofit blogs. And her latest book is Happy Healthy Nonprofits. I have a copy with me here.
That's great.
So
one back there.
Yeah, good morning, Beth, and thank you everyone for joining Question Worth Asking. So without taking any more time, I'm going to start the session. Being mindful that we only have about 55 minutes or so. So I welcome everyone joining. So I take this moment to welcome again everyone. So Dana, Dana is joining from Switzerland, so you can introduce yourself.
Sure. I am really excited. This is the first session of this type that I am attending, and I'm really happy that I got a chance to be in it. I am Donna Mossor. I'm Romanian of origins with an international career and life for 35 years. And I took an early retirement early this year. And this is when I also decided to set up a foundation in Accra, in Ghana, with the objective to do two things. One is really contribute in the fight against the marine litter by bringing a solution to waste management inland in Accra.
Oh, okay.
And the second objective is to help women play a key role in this by empowering them to become entrepreneurs, which through my foundation get seed money and both technology and business know-how to set up small enterprises in plastic recycling in underprivileged communities. And what these women will have to do for this opportunity is to invest part of the profit generated by these enterprises in the community. That's my story.
Okay, thank you, Dana. And Julinda, joining from Philippines, it's now your turn.
Actually, I'm from Indonesia.
Oh, sorry, Indonesia, I'm sorry.
Okay, hello everyone.
Hi.
I'm from Indonesia. I'm working at ISCO Foundation. ISCO stands for Indonesian Street Children Organization. We help poor kids from poor family in slum area in Indonesia. We help them to keep going to school, not going to the street, but going to the school. We built a community center for them. So before they go to school or after they go to school, they come to the community center. We have tutors there. They can learn, they can play, they can eat. We provide some foods for them every day. So our main goal is the kids from kindergarten continue to school till high school, or if they can, till college or university. That's my story. Thank you.
Thank you. Wilson, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Unmute.
Wilson, I think you're on mute.
Okay, I'm out. I'm online.
There, yes.
All right. My name is Wilson Musonda, From Lusaka, Zambia. I'm a co-founder of a youth organization called Trailblazer Youth Project. So what we basically do as an organization is to try and build the human capacity of adolescent youth in Zambia. Because Zambia has a population of over 15 million people, and 75% of that is young people, and the majority of which live in extreme poverty. Most young people lack basic life skills to help them thrive in life, either by getting employment or creating employment for themselves. So as an organization, we trying to work to give these young people basic life skills that they could use to translate into gaining employment or themselves becoming employers. So we have 5 thematic areas that we work in as an organization, which is ICT, entrepreneurship, we have health, education, and citizenship. So that's basically about me and my work. So yeah.
Thank you, Wilson. And Judy, joining from Philippines. Over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Judy from the Philippines. I'm a communications officer in a health foundation here, and our mission is to build a healthier Philippines. And we do that by addressing high need and high neglect health gaps in the country through innovative solutions and strategic partnerships. So we have a program for children, we have a program for the youth, and for persons with disabilities. So I'm here because I'm also like the social media specialist of our lean team. We're just a group of 25 young individuals in our group. And I'm grateful to be here and to learn a lot from Beth and from everyone. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, everyone. So now I'll give you guys a chance again to ask your question later in the call. So first question we have, Beth, for you is coming from Mexico by Gabriela Del Toro. So she wants to know, how did you start working in the nonprofit sector? And she also says, I want to work for nonprofit too, doing their digital strategies, but I don't know how to start. What is the most challenging thing you face while working with this type of organizations?
Okay, so sort of 3 questions. So how I got started, I was trained as a classical flutist, so had nothing to do with business or nonprofits, but it's hard to get a job playing classical flute and make a living. So I got a job helping to do fundraising for the orchestra, the Boston Symphony, and I learned everything on how to do fundraising. And then I thought I was good enough to go manage the Boston Symphony, and so I asked advice from the manager, and he said, no, you have to start with a small organization. So I got a job as an executive director of a small symphony orchestra in Boston, and I grew it. You know, from I was the only staff person, and I grew it to much larger. I learned everything. I mean, board, strategy, and I was really successful with fundraising and marketing. And then a few years into it, I decided I wanted to do consulting with arts organizations, and there was a capacity building program that was giving small grants to arts organizations. And so I would get the organizations to apply for the grants and then hire me. And I worked with so many arts organizations in that state that the federal government that was giving money to arts organizations wanted me to be an evaluator because I was a specialist in small organizations. And then along the way, I discovered, this is about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, actually, the internet. And I was really excited about the power of technology and social good. So I got a job at the New York Foundation for the Arts, where I developed programs that combined technology with capacity building. And then from there, I just more broadly work with the nonprofit sector. I went along my way from, I had a passion and curiosity for learning. I loved networking, and I just kind of was open to, taking risks. Sometimes it didn't go so well, but I learned something and I just moved forward. My first client I got because I had actually worked for that organization and I was leaving. So I had a contract where I trained the next executive director for a month, and that got me started. And I focused initially on just trying to do the best I could and also build the relationship with the people I was working with, not be a jerk, and just try to be helpful and do good work. And word started to grow, and that's how I started to build my work in working in digital, on the digital side. And if you work digital strategies, you always have to be learning because it's always changing. So you have to, like, if you're a person that likes things, I learned this and I want to just do it this way and not have to learn new things, then digital strategy consulting is not a good place to be. But if you love learning and experimenting, there it is. The biggest challenge I encounter is, I'd say, mindsets. And this has been, especially with technology over the last 25 years, whether it was introducing people. 25 years ago, I was teaching people how to do Google searches, and they were resisting. Why would I do that when I could just look it up in the dictionary or encyclopedia, or read the newspaper? And the same thing with email. Why would I want to do email when I can send faxes to people? So there's always been this human element of resistance or fear or frustration. Not everybody is curious about it like I am. So I had to really learn how to have empathy for that and work with that.
Wow. Thank you. And I have another follow-up. Actually, it's not my question. Another follow-up question is coming from Jonathan Biko from Ghana. So he wants to know, what gives you joy in your career?
Well, I'm mostly a teacher and a trainer, and I love teaching, and I love seeing other people learn. I love seeing, okay. Or seeing when the fog lifts or the fear, and it's like, I love demystifying the technology, especially, and presenting it in a way that's simple and fun, and yes, you can do it.
Oh, great. Thank you. Donna, now it's your turn to ask a question from Beth.
Yes, sure, thank you. So, Beth, I'm starting the first social enterprise with my foundation in Accra, with women from a large community, underprivileged community, a coastal community. So one of the things I need to do is the capacity building. So when do I find the best place where I can learn about how to do it?
Okay, so so you need to deliver the capacity building to the women that you're serving through your foundation. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yes.
Yes. It's really interesting because as you were talking, it reminded me of a project that I work with over the last number of years. I've done a lot of international work, and it's called WAKE, which is the Women's Alliance of Knowledge Exchange, and it's here based in San Francisco. And I've worked with it as a trainer and facilitator with them for 10 years or so. They just started this organization, but what they do is they will go to they're here in Silicon Valley. They recruit young women from the tech industry. And then we find a partner wherever. We've been in Cambodia, Guatemala, different places of the world, Ukraine. And we work on, a full day training and coaching. And then there's a long-term relationship. So what we do initially is to do an assessment and figure out, like, where are the pain points? Is it, technical things like, do they need to learn fundraising? Do they need to learn strategy? Or is it, do they want to have a better digital presence? What is it? We work with a whole range of women entrepreneurs and women's rights NGOs, and they're at different stages. So we try to find the commonalities. And then because we have this rich group of volunteers who are professional technology women and also leadership coaches, we put together a program that leverages their skills. So we start with assessment, and we also assume, most of the time, we never assume that people are up here. And it's always, we start at the bottom and build, because, we don't want to throw people in the deep end of the river and, right off the bat. So we simplify it. If they need more, we take them, we give them more. So in terms of resources that are out there, I actually did a little bit of Googling and asking some colleagues, and I'm just going to throw some resources in there. And these are, I've written a bit about capacity building on my blog. There is, you may already know about all of these places, but the AfricaGrantmakers.org, which is all the funders that are, investing in Africa. Some of them also do capacity building. Something called Equal Footing, similar type of group. The Foundation Center, which is in the US, has a global partnerships, and they provide a lot of training, especially online, workshops, lots of resource materials, many free, some low cost. And I know they have been working in Africa. So if you go to their global work and partnership initiatives, and look around for Africa, you'll find resources. And then for fundraising, I think the absolute best, one of the best is Global Giving. And they have a free resource center. And then also the Resource Alliance, which initially serves a lot of the international development organizations, but they also have a commitment to serving local groups in other places of the world. And they do these things called pop-up classes, and they're doing a number of them in Africa. So I would look at the resource, Google them to the International Fundraising Congress. So those are just a few. I had to stop because I could probably do a whole hour talking about resources and capacity building.
Thank you.
And the second one you mentioned was equal footing.
Equal footing. I put all the URLs in the chat.
Oh yes, now I see them. Right.
Yes.
Equal footing. Okay, super, excellent.
So that's what I would start there. I gave you a couple of breadcrumbs.
yeah, super.
That's very useful and it's very informative, Beth. Thank you for sharing that information. So now we move from capacity building to crowdfunding. So the next question coming from Rashid Farouk from Sri Lanka. So he wants to know, what is crowdfunding and what is the salient point? Actually, there are two questions. What is crowdfundraising and what is its salient point?
Okay, so crowdfunding is raising small amounts of donation from many people, typically online, and maybe using a crowdfunding platform or tool to help you do it. And it also involves social media as well. And I said in my book, first book, I think, the successful crowdfunding is a marriage between fundraising and friend-raising, social media, and it's a way to engage, reach, and appreciate new donors online. And then I heard the founder of Global Giving, Mari, she has a great quote. It's, "The power of crowdfunding is the crowd, not the funding." So there you go.
Yeah, thank you. Dana, could you please mute yourself? So now we move to our next question. It's from Raylene Barlow from US. So she wants to know, is there a legal danger to crowd fundraising, Beth?
I'm not, well, I guess it's like, who is the legal danger for the, she asking, is my nonprofit, is there a danger for our nonprofit legally to do crowdfunding or online fundraising, or is there a legal danger to the potential donors? You know, and it kind of depends, but I would say the only danger is that when you do online, and she's from the US, did I hear that correctly?
She's from US, yeah.
Okay, and every country is different with different laws, so, and I'm not a lawyer, but in the US, if you raise money online, your NGO has a fundraising license from your state, and if you're getting money donations from other states, there are issues, but a lot of the platforms in the US have already got the licenses from all the states, so it's not necessarily a worry. Some of the crowdfunding platforms where they allow individuals to raise money, there is potential for fraud, and there's probably been a couple of cases of that where somebody is raising money from other people, but it's going into their pocket. And the platforms like GoFundMe, and I think there's one, Care Foundation, Care2, whatever, they monitor every new fundraiser that goes on, and they can quickly spot and close down frauds. So I'd say, yeah, there's possibly legal dangers, but I think if you choose your platform carefully, and as a donor donating to somebody, that you vet people. Like, for example, here in the US, and we've had all these horrible storms and tragedies that have happened. And in addition to the nonprofits raising money to help victims of the fire or hurricanes or flooding, there's all these sites also have people like setting up, you know, I've lost my home, I lost all my livelihood, and I need some money to rebuild. And they're heart-wrenching kind of stories. And I do donate to those, but I only donate to those where it's been recommended by someone I know who knows that person.
Wow, that's a good way to go about it. Thank you, Beth. So the next question, it's over to you, Jolinda, joining from Indonesia.
Okay, Beth, I'm working for a local NGO in Indonesia. It's a small NGO. So my question is, how can we boost our NGO branding with small budget? And how can we gather people for crowdfunding when our NGO is not so famous yet?
Okay, so they both kind of go on hand in hand, because you want people to know who you are, and not only know who you are, but trust you.
Yep.
So, so it's really important that I'm sure you have. Do you have a board or a group of advisors?
Yep, we have.
Okay, so that those group of advisors are your ambassadors to others, and so it may be recruiting people that are aligned with your work, but also have influence in their community or in their network. And other people trust them, and because they trust them, that trust extends to your organization. So there's that piece of it. There's also having a clear identity about what you do, who you are, things like a tagline, logos, and it's consistent. And you get that, you're maybe doing a little research around like what people already think of you, see if there's any negative perceptions, build on the positive. And then there's the tactical piece of it, which includes maybe your website, your logo, your colors, your messaging around what you're doing, and you're making sure that that's all consistent. When it comes to crowdfunding, and you asked about how to, we're small, how do we get started? So the organization I just described, Wake, and it sounds like there's some feedback with somebody.
Yeah.
Is it me? Oh, good. All right. The Women's Alliance for Knowledge Exchange, they bootstrapped their startup, their nonprofit startup, and they recruited. I'm on their advisory board. So the first crowdfunding campaign we did was just the advisors. There were about 10 of us reaching out to our networks to get people to make a small donation to the organization, and we raised $10,000. I mean, it's not a huge amount, but it was a huge amount for them, and that allowed us to get to the Ukraine for our first project, which was sort of a proof of concept. So, and one of the ways we started was, and I was, as an advisor, I was really the one who was strong about this. I said that every one of us advisors also has to donate. So, so what I did in a group email to all the other advisors, I replied saying, I just donated X amount of dollars. I think everybody needs to do the same. And it created this sort of peer pressure. So all the board members donated. And then when we opened up our campaign to reaching out to our colleagues, there was already some money raised. And we could talk authentically. I support this organization. I believe in it.
And how long, Julie, your organization is in operation? Are you just formed, or have you been there for a while? Sorry, you are muted. Sorry.
Yeah.
We are 20 years.
Oh, wow.
20 years. And because in Indonesia, now it's the trend, the trend is the company want to do their CSR near their place or near their factory.
Mm-hmm.
So some company, we lost some donors from big companies. So now we think we have to go to crowdfunding. So yeah.
I also want to mention, and I can't remember the name, but TechSoup Global, which is an organization here in the US that distributes low-cost software to nonprofits. They also do this all over the world, and they do have an office in your part of the world. And whoever the local partner is, and you have to go up to their website. They also manage the local crowdfunding platform where people can donate in the local currency. You may even already be aware of it or using it.
Yeah.
Which also, I believe, has some good resources on how-tos for crowdfunding.
Yeah, we have in Indonesia some platform, crowdfunding platform. We have some website. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so the next question comes to us from Kenya, and it's coming from Linus. So I'm sorry, Beth, it's rather a long question, so I'm going to read it out. I'm excited to listen to you as I'm currently reading your book, which I find revolutionary. how can I apply the crowdfunding method to raise funds for my business idea, which involves revolutionizing the greenhouse farming, ending hunger, ill health, and poverty through the use of agribusiness technological advancements and a change entrepreneurial mindset?
Okay, that's a great question. Okay, so it's basically wanting to use how do I get started with crowdfunding for my social startup? And so I'm just going to give you one thing. I think you have to have a number of things, but the one thing that's really important is to have really good story. And I call it the story of impact. And that's what, if I give you some money, if I'm a donor and I'm investing in your project, what is your project doing to change the world? Or what is, in terms of agribusiness technological advancements? Don't tell me about the what, but tell me like what will happen as a result of investing in this project. So you want to make sure that you tell that through the story of a beneficiary or one person. So you have a character, you have the character's journey, it's authentic, and then there's this call to action, which is the ask. So, and there's lots of really good resources on the Global Giving Resource Center site about how to do good storytelling. So I would start with crafting a really good story. That's step one.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Patrick. He's from Uganda. So he wants to know, how do I make a successful fundraising for a new nonprofit project whose budget is $30,000 annually, annual budget of $30,000?
Okay, so I'm going to do a build. You want the same advice I just gave, but you want good storytelling. And the next thing is that I'm assuming that there's some sort of advisory group or core group of people who are interested in this in addition to you. And so you want to convene one because they're going to be your champions to reach others. And that's really important to have a group of supporters who can tap into their networks. And that's one of the key things around crowdfunding. So the story and the crowd.
Okay, great. So next question is from Sarah. She's joining from USA. So she wants to know, I work for a large school that hasn't done a lot of outreach for giving to families, alumni, friends, capable of an annual gift of $5,000 or less. What are the right first steps to build? What are the right first steps to building a culture of giving for those who have limited disposable income and are feeling the pinch of tuition obligations?
Right, and I've seen, with schools and stuff, sort of efforts to go to the parents or even the grandparents might fall flat when they go out, as an ask, and you're treating an ask. When you're treating them kind of like an ATM machine. I don't know if that's a familiar term, but we can put cards in and get cash out from the bank. So you don't want to treat potential donors or stakeholders like an ATM machine or have it be a transactional relationship, because it won't create that culture of philanthropy. It will definitely fall flat. So I think the couple of steps might be, first of all, to do some research on, gift levels, what the giving potential is. The next step is then prioritize those donors and figure out how you're going to build those relationships and how you're going to cultivate them. And this is not asking them for money right off the bat. It's showing a true, authentic interest in the donor and building that relationship. And then it may be an ask, or maybe you might have a group of people that are like them. Maybe you have a group of parents already who aren't feeling the pinch, or already have a culture of philanthropy and already want to support, and maybe they're brought in to kind of do some of the asking. So it's an ask from a peer. And then, of course, if they do give some money, even if it's a little amount, you want to give recognition and support, because the first gift is the beginning of the relationship, and you want to support them and continue that cultivation over time. Right. And you have to look at the long term. It's not you can't look at this group of people as potential, oh, here's some quick ways for us to make some cash.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Beth. Wilson, it's over to you now. So you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Are we muted?
I think Wilson is muted. Wilson, can you hear me? Great.
Yes, thank you, Kanishka.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi, Beth.
Hello.
Yes, Wilson here. My question was on funding as well. Organization is quite small.
Wilson, I'm sorry you're breaking up. Do you mind repeating the question from the beginning?
Yeah, so the question is, can small NGOs solicit for funding from unconventional sources?
Right. And I noticed in your, I saw the question written out, and you talked about getting support from companies that might be a beer company or a cigarette company. So basically you're asking about corporate or business sponsorship, which is the unconventional resource. So the first thing with that is to be clear that it's when a company gives money, they have different motivations to give. They truly want to be philanthropic, of course, or they feel they have corporate responsibility. But the other part of it is, business reasons, okay? So maybe they want to enhance their reputation, maybe they want to sell more products, and so they combine those two things together. So you want to be clear with the company about why they're giving and what they expect. And then on your side, you want to be sure that the company's values and what they're about are in line with what you're doing. Now, for example, or else there could be, it could not be a good match and it could be a problem. It could be some reputational damage. So for example, let's say you were a cancer charity and you wanted to partner with a cigarette company, maybe that might not be the best match for different various reasons. So, and I remember recently a couple of years ago in the US, Kentucky Fried Chicken, which is a fast food company, supported one of the breast cancer charities, and high fat, unhealthy food is kind of associated with an elevated risk in cancer. And what happened, there was this huge backlash from their stakeholders and their donors, and people were doing not so nice videos of them and putting them on YouTube, and there was a lot of pushback on social media, and it created a little bit of a communications crisis for them. So you always want to be mindful of that.
Thank you, Beth. So next question we have is from Alfred Zebi. He's joining from Ivory Coast. So Beth, he wants to know, do you know any crowdfunding dedicated to Africa?
Well, I did, but then I did a little bit of research and I found that there are 57 platforms from a site called appsafrica.com, and that crowdfunding is gaining momentum in Africa. And actually, if you click on the link that I just dropped in the chat, you will see a map that shows different localized platforms. And I guess if in picking a platform, you have to do your due diligence and research. So the most important thing are, what are their fees? And they have different they charge you for the privilege of letting people, make donations online. So there'll be anything from, a modest fee to maybe up to 10%, some even higher. So that's the processing fees for the use of the credit card or use of the mobile phone. There's also the platform fees. Some platforms waive them, some pass it on to the donor. Then there's the ease of use of the platform itself. Some of them allow you to make these beautiful pages and put great content in there, especially video, and others don't. And some platforms provide a lot of hand-holding and support, and others don't. And finally, with all of that is what if people are donating through the platform, how long does it take to get your money? Some hold it for a bit, and some of it you get right away. And some of them give you access to the names, others don't. So there's a list of all these variables, and you have to look at the different platforms and figure out do a spreadsheet and compare what their cost and their ease of use and fees around the money and how fast you get it and their landing pages, and then make your decision. It's also good to look at the platform itself and see who else is using it and whether the campaigns are successful, and maybe you even know one of the NGOs or organizations that are on it, and you can actually ask their advice about how, you know, how well did the platform work for you.
Great.
I will say, if it's an NGO, I think that global giving, and I'm a huge fan of theirs. I've been a huge fan for 10 years. I've known them since they first started. I like their approach with small grassroots nonprofits and places of the world, is that they also provide capacity building and try to raise your profile. You have to apply to get in, but I would go look, and I think you can go to the site and make an application and explore that as well.
Thank you, Beth. So Aliyu Abdulhai from Nigeria. So he wants to know what is digital strategy and crowd fundraising?
Okay, so I think I already answered hopefully I answered the crowdfunding question. What is a digital strategy? A digital strategy is your strategic plan and execution of your organization's mission online, and that includes your website, the use of email, any paid advertising or search engine optimization, and that's so you show up in Google searches, and of course social media, and also increasingly mobile phones. So all of that is your sort of digital communication, and that supports your organization's goals.
Okay, thanks, Beth. So the next question from Meso, he's from Kenya. So he wants to know, I want to start a foundation to cater for the education needs of orphan children. What digital strategies can I employ, and what are the main requirements to take care of before starting off?
Okay, so I think the first thing is to get all the non-digital stuff done, which maybe you have. So that's and I don't know. It's different in all different countries, but some countries need you to apply to the government for NGO status or certification. So you need that. You need a strategy. You need a plan. You need probably some advisors, maybe staff. You need to have a really good plan for your programs and a good plan for fundraising. And on your digital presence, I would start off with something small and basic, maybe a basic website that lets people contact you, and maybe some basic social media. But there's an awful lot of things you have to do in startup. And if you try to do too many things at once, you won't do anything. So I would get the offline stuff done and start small with your digital presence and grow it over time.
Okay, great, thanks. So Judy Santiago, over to you.
Hello. Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Beth.
Hi.
So my question is about, as you mentioned earlier, about changing mindset. So I work for a foundation in the Philippines that is focused on health. So how can I get our newly appointed yet traditional executive director to invest on social media management? So since we're operating on a very limited budget, the management thinks that funds should go directly to the beneficiaries rather than on communications channels such as social media. So how do I convince her?
Oh boy. Okay, so sometimes it's hard if it is your boss and you have to convince up. That can be difficult because you're in a different power relationship right from the right off the bat. And sometimes that's difficult. But so sometimes it's helpful if she has peers who are in similar organizations, and you can show what they're doing and show what a best practice is in the field. And there's something in the US that's called the overhead myth, and this probably falls with it, that overhead should be so low and we shouldn't spend any money, not even on a decent chair, And we're not talking about spending exorbitant amounts of money that we're taking away from our stakeholders, but we need to have a base level of investment in this so we can deliver great services. Now, social media, depending on what your circumstances are, what your programs are, getting the message out around your programs or helping people get educated or changing behavior or whatever it is, you need to show a direct line between how social media and your organization's use of it will help your organization reach your goals and objectives and outcomes, so that you're showing that it's strategic. It's not just this fluff, fun cat picture thing, you know, and show examples from other organizations, and maybe do a Google for the overhead myth. It's on GuideStar, and maybe share that, some of that information as well. And there's also on the Nonprofit Technology Network site, it's n10.org. I'm also on the board there, but every year they do a digital strategy assessment report that shows across the whole global field, it's all types of organizations from all over the world, how much they're investing in digital and what percentage in social and et cetera. So that's also good ammunition for you.
Thank you. So next question is from Santosh. He's from India. So he wants to know which platforms have the highest engagement of users on social media for nonprofits.
Highest levels of engagement on well, I would have to say it depends. It depends on what you're talking about. But the largest platform, of course, we all know is Facebook. That has the largest reach, and increasingly more and more people are using it and getting addicted to it and being advertised to. So that's there. So what I would do is, if you're thinking about it for your own organization, I would do some benchmarking, which is compare yourself to your peer organizations in your country, in your field, and some outside your country, maybe the same similar budget size, and see what platforms they're on, and take a look at whether or not they're how much engagement they're getting, and then make a decision.
Great. Thank you. So next question is from Karen Lewis. She's from US. She wants to know what's the best balance of content versus ask, post during a fundraising campaign, and optimal posts per day on Twitter / Facebook and other platforms.
Okay, so let me think where it was recently. Oh, on Buffer. The Buffer blog recently published a report last week, and what they did is and this is just for social media, they synthesized 14 different studies that talked about the best time and frequency to post on different channels, and it gives you some guidelines, like how often to post on Facebook, when to post on Facebook, based on their analysis, and they give you a low and a high. So I think that's a great place to start to get some answers to that question. The second place to start is also, if you have started a presence, I believe in benchmarking, and you can benchmark with yourself. So you can go back and run and say, how often did we post on Facebook over the last month, and do some comparisons. When we post twice a week, do we get more engagement than when we post 5 times a week? And then set up a formula for yourself.
So you had to take some time to test it and only figure it out.
Yes.
Okay.
There's no magic answer. I wish we all went like, here, do this and you'll be wildly successful and raise millions of dollars. That doesn't always happen.
Right. Trial and error. Yeah.
No, but it's thoughtful. It's thoughtful experimentation.
Yeah.
So you can learn something.
Yes, thank you, Beth. So another question, again coming from US, Lois Chang. She wants to know, what is your recommendation for a chief of staff who works for a leader who does not use social media and will likely not be comfortable, but the leader recognizes the importance of it?
Okay, I think that you have a win right there, because sometimes we have trouble when the leader doesn't recognize the importance and won't use it and won't let their staff use it. And so it's very difficult. So some leaders aren't comfortable. Sometimes you can change that, and sometimes you can't. There are examples of nonprofit marketing and social media people helping their leaders understand what it is, giving them some simple tutorials and providing support for them to use it, not like we use it as a social media professional, but so that they do have a presence that's not embarrassing. So, if the leader isn't comfortable, that's okay, but they shouldn't encourage others. And they should also figure out whether or not they can help them become comfortable.
Okay, so Kiki Chan from Canada, she wants to know, how do I get people to my blog?
Oh my God. What a great question. You know, blogging has changed over, I've been doing it for what, 12, 15, 15 years. So I was a really early adopter, and blogging has really changed since, I'd say, beginning in 2010-ish, especially with the rise of Facebook and more social media use and people consuming more short-form content on social. So I think to get more people to your blog, you have to be really good and write you have to have really good quality. You have to be very niche. So you can't be all over the map in different topics. You should pick an area and know everybody who's writing about that. You become the expert in that niche and write about that. And then, of course, you have to get word out about your blog as well. And so that's, you know, using social to raise awareness and get people to, you know, actually start consuming and be very interactive. So I've also noticed a trend, and I'm feeling it myself, is that blogs are publishing less frequently these days. And instead of writing more shorter pieces, they're going more for the long form, really meaty, good, well-written piece. So think about like I'm even contemplating, you know, I've gone from publishing 7 days a week to 5 days a week to 3 days a week, and now sometimes 2 days a week. And I'm really thinking about maybe once or twice a week starting in 2018, but just doing big pieces that are like what I call field scans of a particular topic that extract the best practices and the best resources on a specific digital or well-being topic. And so people can just use that post to learn about it. So I think those are the kinds of posts that are doing better. So.
Wow, great. So next question is from Jacob. He's from Nigeria. I personally like this question. It's, again, quite a long question. So he wants to know, crowdfunding is one of the major strategies for raising funds in recent time. What do you think contribute to success in raising funds through this strategy based on your experience? Secondly, how relevant is the mastery of SEO tools to social entrepreneurs or NGO trying to create online presence and reach out to a larger audience?
Okay, so the first question, you know, I've been crowdfunding. I was the first person to crowdfund on Twitter. I got into it really early, 2006, and I won a couple of contests, the first, you know, crowdfunding for nonprofit contests. And I raised money for an orphanage program that was in Cambodia. And over the 10 or 15 years I've been doing this, I've raised $250,000 for that project, not all in one bat, but in a series of small campaigns, plus other campaigns for other causes that I care about, like ocean conservation and, of course, women's rights. So I think it is successful, and it's because you're able to tap into your network and think in a network connected way versus a broadcast. SEO, yeah, SEO is part of it. But if you think of the building blocks, there's a couple of them. So there's SEO, there's this area called paid social, which is advertising on Facebook, and more that's becoming a necessary evil, even though all of us in the nonprofit world really hate it because we don't have the resources, and Facebook and others to be donating that, and Google does, but I'll go on. So there is that. So you need to be thinking about small amounts of money in, you know, supporting advertising. You need to have really good engaging storytelling and content and being able to engage, and a great website and landing pages, and especially a way to collect email addresses, and then SEO. So there's a lot involved. So so I'd say yes, but that is a lot to do. And where I would get, you know, so I would sort of sit back and honestly look at your website. Is your website really crappy? Sorry. You know, is there are there typos in the text? Is there no photos? Is there no place where people can sign up for your, you know, email newsletter? You know, fix that first maybe. And is it mobile ready, or does it look really awful on a mobile phone? So you want to do, and then probably having a basic social presence and a way to capture emails would be first. And then SEO is a little bit, you know, 202. kind of thing.
Thank you, Beth. And so I'm being very mindful here. My colleague and my timekeeper says we have about 10 minutes left. So I'm going to power through the rest of the questions. We got overwhelming number of questions. We only could slot in about like 30 questions for this one now. So I'm going ahead with the next question. It's from Nileshwar Narayan from India. So he wants to know how to expand reach of nonprofits beyond the existing range in order to increase funds and also make more individuals to volunteer for a social cause by using digital technology, and within brackets it says in an effective manner.
Okay, I'll take the second question about volunteering because I think we've talked about the first one quite a bit. And I, from India, and I know more and more people from India are using LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has a place in your professional resume presence to indicate whether you're on a board or that you'd like to volunteer. But you can also search on LinkedIn for people who've checked that box, and you can make it say, show me people in Mumbai who have checked this box about interest in volunteering in healthcare organizations. So you might come up with a few potential volunteers that you could reach out to.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you, Beth. So next question is from Leng Chantra from Cambodia. Wants to know what is the specific applicable principle for improving networking?
Oh, I love the name Leng. It's the same name as I raised money to send a young woman to college in Cambodia, and her name was Lang. Lang, but it's not the same Lang. It's Lang Subaroth. But okay. So I'm assuming networking as professional networking, person to person versus networking, setting up your network in your office.
I think the personal networking, what she refers here.
Okay, so I'm just going to give a quick tip in the interest of time. Don't start your networking with asking somebody else to do something for you. You you make a connection, and you try to help the other person first. You build that relationship. You don't start with, hi, my name is Beth Kanter. Will you give me some money? Hi, my name is Beth Kanter. Will you give me a job? Hi, my name is Beth Kanter. Will you introduce me to all your really good prospects? That's not a good first approach.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Beth Kanter. How can I help you?
Yes.
We have these mutual interests, and I want to be able to help you. Let's talk about it.
Great. Thanks, Beth. So next question is from Mizula Noel from Zambia. Another Zambian wants to know how best can social networking be used in developing nations to meet the needs of the needy people?
I would look at Global Giving again and what they're doing, because I think they're a beautiful example of helping needy people in developing nations all around the world. So go to the globalgiving.org site and just take a look at those examples.
Okay, and this will be most probably my last question from Benjamin from Rwanda. So he wants to know, how do I link up with worldwide non-profit organizations for networking to foster social change in the event of so much resistance to meaningful usage?
Okay. So, well, there is resistance, but then there's not resistance. So, so depending on, I would like whatever your topic area is, I would start to search people out maybe on LinkedIn or Twitter and make connections with individuals who are connected with the organizations. And when you want to connect with someone on LinkedIn, of course, you don't just send the connection without any note. Write a small note about why you want to connect with them. Who you are, what you're doing, and how you can help them. And then, that could be your first introduction, and you build your network slowly.
Okay, thank you, Beth. I think we cannot ask any more questions because we're almost at towards the end. So I just want to take this moment again to say a big thank you on behalf of Philanthropy University and our learners. You taking the time, it's an early morning call for you, and sharing your knowledge. And I personally learned a lot, and also I jot down some of things for me to sort of follow up. So thank you so much. It's been great having you today with us. And also I take this time to thank our learners individually, though I cannot go into names individually, but I thank each and everyone for sending your questions. We got so many questions. Maybe we'll try to get you, Beth, again another future day, because we only shared 1/3 of the questions that we got. Is there also any other way people can sort of stay in touch with you? I'm sure, you can
Sure. I'm on Twitter at Kanter, Kanter. I'm on LinkedIn. Twitter's a really easy way to ask questions. You know, I check it every day, and if it's easy for me to, and I usually respond. So that's a great way to keep in touch. Twitter, also Facebook. You know, it's
and also your blog. Actually, I'm a follower as your blog as well. Like I really learn a lot from the blog. Thank you.
And I'll put that in as well. So. And I love this. I love learning too. I loved all the questions. So I love curiosity.
And also, like, those who can, please buy the book and read. It's very good book. So again, thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
And looking forward to again connecting with you in the future.
Oh wait, one thing I didn't do.
Yeah.
Really quickly, indulge me for 1 second because I didn't do this. All right, smile, everybody. Great. All right, thanks.
Wow, that's great.
All right.
Thank you, Beth, and
Bye.
thank you, everyone. Have a good day. And until we meet again with another interesting guest next month, it's Or and R from Philanthropy University. Goodbye.
Great. Thank you.